Depending on who you ask, justice means different things. In the case of a 1998 murder of an 85-year-old woman in Brownsville, neither side claims it's been served. One man charged with the crime sits on death row. His execution date delayed due to a clerical error. CBS 4's investigative reporter Maribel Gonzalez found it's a case that is still raising many questions 21 years later. It's a story you'll see only on 4.
She's a teacher, an aunt, just a wonderful person, and a wonderful person in the community. Everybody looked up to her, everybody adored her.
ESCOLASTICA Harrison was a matriarch.
She could get along with anybody, actually. Always very talkative, inquisitive.
Her name meant scholastic in Spanish, fitting, her nephew Alex Hernandez says, for a woman who liked to teach even outside the classroom. She's beautiful.
She was an angel. That's all I can say. She was an angel.
But in September of 1998, Harrison became the center of a high-profile murder investigation.
Upon our arrival, we realized that she was already deceased and that something horrific had happened, that there was a very violent event had taken place.
William DIETRICH is a commander of the Brownsville Police Department. 21 years ago, he was one of the officers who responded to the scene of Harrison's home.
What happened to Mrs. Harrison?
What happened to Miss Harrison is, unfortunately very simple. You had 3 individuals who had nothing but greed on their mind, and they went in there with the intent of stealing her money, robbing her of her money, and ultimately killing her to make sure that she would never be a witness.
The 3 people charged in this case were René Garcia, Pedro Gracia, and Ruben Gutierrez, a friend of Harrison's and her nephew. Investigators say Harrison didn't trust banks, so she kept her money stowed away in suitcases inside her home, and that's why she was ultimately targeted.
At the time of the murder, prosecutors say she had about $600,000 in cash stashed in this house. Prosecutors also allege that very few people knew about the existence of this cash. One of those people, Ruben Gutierrez.
Mrs. Scholastica Harrison was a fighter. She suffered defensive wounds, which meant that she fought for her life, and to have 2 21-year-olds just pounce on her for money. To take money, that's what this is all about.
We wanted to get Ruben's account of what happened that day in September 1998. So we made the 400-mile trek here to Livingston, Texas for a sit-down interview with him on death row. And although he initially agreed to that interview, he later declined.
Hello.
We came from Harlingen to speak with you.
I know. I apologize for that. I had a visit this week. Attorneys told me not to do it. If you have any questions.
Is there anything that you want to say with us right now?
Nah, I don't want to say anything that's going to be held against, used against me.
Can you just tell me, did you murder Ms. Harrison?
No.
Are you still standing by that today?
Yes.
It's a position at odds with District Attorney Sines.
Ruben Gutierrez, as he sits today in death row, is a coward. He is not wanting to man up. He is wanting to, escape accountability, and that's what people do that are in death row. That's human nature. No one wants to die.
Mr. Gutierrez has always maintained that he did not kill this woman.
Federal defender SHAWN Nolan represents Gutierrez. He says his client has not been served justice. The courts have denied their multiple requests for DNA testing.
There have been tons of exonerations in this country based on DNA testing, and this is a simple test that we are asking to do.
My position is that's a frivolous, outrageous argument. He himself places himself at the scene. He himself places himself at the scene with a screwdriver in his hand. His co-defendant, René Garcia, places him there with a screwdriver in his hand. This is not a DNA case. There's no DNA needed. The jury heard his version. The jury did not believe him, and the jury sentenced him and found him guilty.
For Gutierrez, each day draws closer to his execution date. But for prosecutors and Harrison's family, that day is overdue.
Myself, personally, I just want to see an end to it. I just want we just want closure. Life goes on, and life has gone on, and my aunt would want me to go on. She'd say just forgive him.
Well, it's been 21 years of pain and anguish for the family, It's been 21 years that the community's been waiting for the jury's verdict to be brought, carried forth. Mr. Gutierrez has had his day in court. It's time to carry out the jury's verdict, which is death, and death by execution.
May marks 20 years since Ruben has been living behind these walls on death row. His execution date was originally scheduled for July. That date has now been pushed back to October of this year. Reporting in Livingston, I'm Maribel Gonzalez.
Gutierrez's attorneys are appealing the execution. Ruben Garcia is serving life in prison after he pleaded guilty to the murder. The third suspect, Pedro Gracia, remains on the run.